All right, and welcome to the Lifeboat Academy Outreach and Network Guild. Today is April 30th, and we are still expecting a few people who are probably going to be showing up late. That's also why we record things, and Ronnie will not be able to make it today. So with that, as is our habit, we usually start with a land acknowledgement centering the land. And so I always leave an opening for anybody who wants to do a land acknowledgement, but I am more than happy to do one. No one jumping at it. So, all right, let's see what comes out of my mouth today. So we start by acknowledging the land and acknowledging our connection to the land. And in doing so, we are dipping into a deep tradition among a variety of indigenous groups who have this practice for time immemorial when starting any kind of gathering or conversation, as a way of bringing us all together, as a way of reminding us of our interconnection and our interdependence, not only with each other, but also with the whole living world. And in doing so, the hope and the expectation is that it brings us sort of to our better selves. It's a reminder of how we can be together as humans and how we can be in right relationship with ourselves and each other and all of our relations. And so I invite us all to take a moment to actually ground yourself in the place where you are right now. So if you are able and if this feels comfortable, I invite you to close your eyes and take a deep breath in, breathing in cool, energizing air. And as you exhale, just allow the weight of your body to press down into the seat beneath you. Feel the support of the earth coming up to you through the foundation and the structure of the building that you're in. Feel that balance between the gentle pressure of gravity holding you to the planet with enough freedom that you can still move. And take a moment in your mind's eye to actually see where you are in the landscape. Take a moment to cast your attention to the north and the east and the south and the west, thinking about the landmarks and the connections you have in each of the directions. And take another deep breath in, breathing in all of the connections, all of the relations from all of the directions. And on the exhale, just let any tension or stress or distraction, anything that doesn't serve you anymore, just let it drift off your body like water flowing off your skin. And take a moment to hold in your heart some gratitude for the many, many generations of people who have loved the place where you are and have cared for it and have built their lives there in all their relationships. And specifically, I am expressing my gratitude to the Wasanic, who are the traditional keepers of this land, traditional land current keepers of this land, and to all of those relations who keep it what it is, beautiful and healthy and vibrant. So with that, I invite you to take another breath and come join us back in the circle. And I will bring up our agenda. And as soon as I find the right button. All right. So we have a few items on the agenda from the last meeting. The big thing is checking in on the 6 conversations. I think last time we more or less nailed down the action plan for that, and we can go over that and figure out what the next steps are. I think that there are a couple clear next steps that we've actually outlined, so it's just confirming that that's still working. And then there were 3 items from the agenda last week that are all kind of connected in my mind. There is how we're doing publicity around any events that any of the guilds might be having. Thinking about our social media, and then also feedback on the website. And I feel I'm, as the guest caretaker for the meeting today, I actually feel a little out of my depth on the website feedback at this point, because I'm not knowledgeable enough about that area, I think, to really be able to lead that particularly well. But I do think it would be, we can cover as much of this as we can cover. And I will also then create an opportunity for us to do a quick check-in. And as part of the check-in, also any questions or potential agenda items that are on your mind. And so the circle today is Pam, Heather, and me, and I'll put that in the chat. And I think the check-in question is really just in honor of the increasing sunlight and bright days, what is feeling lighter with you is the check-in question. And as you're answering the question, what is feeling lighter, also feel free to share any questions or discussion items that you want to get on the agenda. So Pam, over to you. What is feeling lighter for you? Oh, you're muted.
Yeah, it's hard to put in words, but there seems to be a kind of settling of some previously unsettled ground, which makes a lot of difference to how my energy moves. And as far as agenda items, perhaps an update with regard to some of the places that I'm linked into and possible intersections with updates as far as it might intersect the Lifeboat Academy. Oh, and I don't know if it's relevant here, but there was something, what space was it that Roland had posted? Something about, sorry, I didn't do my homework.
The book club thing?
Yes.
Yeah, book club is, I think, technically is heart work.
Okay, let me leave that. And Foodlands Cooperative, please remind me of your name. And it's nice to meet you. I may have met you before, and my apologies if I don't recognize you.
Well, and my apologies for not inviting introductions as well. So thanks for remembering that. And
Heather.
actually, Pam, do you want to introduce yourself too? Like provide a little context.
Okay, Heather, I'm on the unceded lands of the Lekwungen peoples, Songhees and Esquimalt, and that's, I'm not sure where you are. I'm in what's called colonially British Columbia, across the water from Ben on Vancouver Island. And I've been with the Lifeboat Academy in some fashion or other for a little while, and have more or less, it seems semi-recently, being more regularly moving into some of these spaces. So it's a bit.
Is it me? Okay, yeah, my name's Heather Pritchard. My apology. It automatically comes up as Foodlands, and I usually catch it and change my name, which I've done now. And yeah, and so Lifeboat Academy is a member of Foodlands Cooperative, a cooperative of mostly community farms and allies. Those who are not community farms are definitely allies. And our entire purpose is access to community spaces for food provisioning and food security, and the support for people to build community around that. And so it's very aligned with what Lifeboat is doing. And that's why Ben reminded me that I was part of this group for that reason, and I had forgotten why or whether I was. And I thought, okay, I'll check in today because I got the invitation and see if there is a role for me to play with this outreach. But in Foodlands, we're looking at all of our relationships being reciprocal. So I would be looking for, where is the reciprocity? How can we not add to our plates so much as connect with each other in a way that makes our work more effective? And I'm on the unceded territory of a number of groups that have shared this, and so it's really not clear. The Kwantlen Nation and Semiahmoo and the Matsqui and it's in the township of Langley that we know of as the township of Langley on a cooperative community farm. So that's kind of me. And happy to meet you and be here with this group. Ben.
Yeah, Heather's involvement with the Lifeboat Academy predates the Lifeboat Academy. Because actually part of the inspiration for how we structured ourselves came from a Young Agrarians presentation that Heather did in 2018, 2019, something like that. Pre-pandemic. I know that.
Yeah.
Actually probably was like 2018. Yeah, anyhow, so Heather's been part of she's an intellectual ancestor to the Lifeboat Academy. And what, and the one thing I put in the email that I consider, and actually it's cool that you're here, Heather, because there's another project that we've had some relationship with called the Resilient Communities Project that Brad Smith is doing. And it's sort of just talking a little bit around what is the network aspect of the guild. How do we, Pam, you were kind of talking about doing updates on the groups. And so I think it's in that same spirit of how do we, and actually what Heather, you were talking about, how do we keep in touch enough that we can identify where there might be that mutual benefit that we can act on. So cool. Well, I'm going to go back to sharing the agenda. And this is actually pretty convenient. I'm going to put in, I've got updates on related groups, and yeah, that should cover it actually. So let's go through the Lifeboat conversations. And what I did this morning actually was I cleaned up the notes from our last meeting so that we would have something like, I added headings and I moved a couple of the bullet points around, but it seems like we have a really clear plan for the 6 conversations. And so I think it's really just going through and double checking that we're on the same page. And at this point, I'm also aware that we've got a number of people who aren't here and the video will be up. So, and our standing practice is that we treat any decisions that we make are provisional and open to any feedback that people have for the next 48 hours. And if we don't hear anything, we assume there's no objection and we can move forward. So if you are watching this video and you have anything that you want to chime in on, you still have a chance. And of course, everything is always emerging and evolving. So Heather, just a quick, have you heard of the 6 conversations, the Peter Bluck thing?
I've heard of it, but I haven't gone into it in depth. So a quick summary would be really good.
Yeah, the summary is it's basically deep conversations. The idea is that the same group of people more or less will meet over 6 times, over 6 different conversations, as an opportunity to grow deeper around any topic that you can kind of, it's a framework that you can put any topic into. And they cover a variety of things. There's, I think one's called the invitation or the opportunity. And actually, Pam, you might know better. There's one is the commitment. There's a commitment conversation, like a reservations or hesitations conversation. So they're meant to sort of look from all these different angles at the topic, and allow people to weave together and create a shared understanding. Anything you want to add to that, Pam? And you're muted. You're muted, Pam.
Okay, I'm going back right to basic steps, huh? Just 1 second here. Okay, those I can't remember, but I know how to find out and cheat my memory. And so those are the 6 categories for the conversations.
Mhm.
The only thing I guess I would add is that having done it before with Earth Regenerators, it was and that was through the Osa Peninsula group. It was a powerful way of connecting and getting to know each other, accelerating understandings, and moving things into a different level of relating.
And that's the goal. And we've always had, as part of the process for building a lifeboat, that we recommend, the first, actually, basically the first step that we recommend is we call it the lifeboat circle, which is, what does building a lifeboat mean to you? It means lots of things to lots of people. And how do we get on the same page about what does building a lifeboat mean to you? And so we felt like this was a way of kind of refreshing that and taking it further, since it covers all these different aspects. And we also, so it's simultaneously an opportunity to bring current guild members into better relationship with each other, better understanding, and also an opportunity to maybe bring some more people in who have been at the edges and are interested. And so really what we're hoping to do is that the focus is on existing guild members. So of the whatever 16 or so people that have expressed the interest in kind of being more involved, how do we all have those conversations with each other? But we want an open invitation to all of our allies and friends and people who might be interested. So we're focusing on the guild members just as like the focus, but then we're leaving it open for other people. And the format, it'll be Zoom 90-minute meetings. They'll probably be circle form, and yeah, and we'll just be adapting the current what does building a lifeboat mean to you by enhancing the sort of the 6 aspects of the 6 conversations. Right now the meetings will be at 5 o'clock. Everyone has confirmed 5 o'clock Pacific. We did that so that people that are in more easterly time zones, it can be an evening and not terribly late. 90 minutes. The poll is clear around the day is going to be Tuesday. And we are evenly divided on weekly or bi-weekly, with 2 leaning towards every week, 2 leaning towards every other week, 2 who are saying they're firmly in the middle, and nobody is objecting one way or the other. So I don't know, flip a coin. I have no idea how we break that. It really is. And I think, does anyone want to nudge it one way or the other?
Well, it's that longer temporal period that seems to be really the thing that's in question, and to have it stretched over do the math, the long period or the short period. You want,
Yeah,
and part
6
of,
weeks or 12 weeks. Yeah.
yeah, and part of me feels inclined, weighted towards the more compressed period to keep up the momentum of the
Mm.
conversation. That said, I could be persuaded otherwise if there was a strong weight in that direction, but that's why I would probably go a little bit more towards the weekly.
Yeah. Yeah, because most of our guilds are in the bi-weekly, the one tipping factor for me is that it can fit a little bit better with that bi-weekly guild thing, but I honestly I don't know. I could anyhow, I really think maybe we'll just get a coin.
I wonder if it would be helpful to have the first meeting, see who shows up, and then make the temporal thing pattern based on who shows up.
Cool.
Yeah, what I was thinking is that maybe we could try sometimes to do once a week with the idea that we could change to once every second week. If we feel that's a bit too much, but we can get a momentum going, and then we often do that when we want to try and get a group started, right? We meet more frequently in the beginning. I'm not attached either, so that isn't helpful, I know. But maybe start with once a week.
You know what? I think in the spirit of starting somewhere, good enough for now, safe enough to try. And I like your logic too, that we can start off trying every week, and then if that is a problem, then we can just skip. And that's
You know,
easy.
Yeah,
It's
and
easy enough.
if they're not showing, that's when we do know we have a problem.
Yeah, exactly.
Mhm.
All right, cool. So that decision is at least provisionally met. Again, for anybody watching, you can weigh in if you have strong feelings. Um, the outreach, like I said, we're going to be really focusing on just making sure, and that's part of the reason why we did the poll. The poll was only with guild people. And so, people that are showing up get preferential treatment and sort of how we're staging it. And now that it's set, we'll go through our normal channels of post it to the website, post it through the newsletter, and the other thing too is working the networks. So, you know, that's actually something that I think we might want to talk through a little bit more is how do we want to identify like some key ambassadors that we contact, for example, like, you know, Pamela, you being able to get things out to Earth Regenerators more directly. Um, maybe that's worth kind of taking a minute to see. We already kind of have it. I mean, we know some people have stronger connections with a couple different organizations, and so I don't know if we really need to do more than kind of go through the Rolodex and just, pick a few people. We're not looking for huge numbers. We're not trying for this to be, go viral or anything like that, but we do want to make it available to people who might be interested. Oh,
Um,
and actually we have the pitch already, which we talked about last time, that we're asking for a soft commitment because you can get more out of it that way, that it's a way of exploring what a resilient network looks like. It allows us for developing deeper understandings, introducing the idea of lifeboats. And so we've got the messaging more or less set. It's just a matter of setting it out there. So anyhow, over to you, Pam, for thoughts.
um, yeah, I think Earth Regenerators, the governance jam or whatever it's called, is going to be meeting on Friday. And it's something that um, I don't even have to be at the meeting, but I could communicate that. I'm on trying to get to the Asana to find out so I'm in that network goals meeting notes. I'd like to be able to copy and paste that bit that you've highlighted there, Ben, about the pitch.
Yeah.
And be able to just pretty much give that over to them. And there, so the other two, so let's see, how do I find that?
I just put the link in the chat. That'll go right to this task in Asana.
Okay,
And I will also copy this to the chat. Hi, Roland.
I am sorry I'm so late.
That's okay.
okay, that's great. Okay. So the bit that has the pitch.
It is a
Oh, I see the
sub.
whole thing. Here we are.
Yeah.
Invitations. Let's see. Oops. I hope I didn't screw something up there. I'm just copying and pasting.
Oh, I think you screwed something up there.
Oh, fuck. Did I? Seriously?
No, no, I just bumped. That's all.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, no, I did manage to copy and paste it into a different document.
Cool.
Roland, maybe Roland wants to check in and get up to speed with where we are.
Yeah, just let me know where you are and I'll do my best to catch up.
Where we are now is we're going over the 6 conversations. And I think probably you were here in the chat. There's a link directly to this part of the Asana task.
Okay.
And it's a summary of, it's basically just what we talked about last time.
Okay.
And just kind of confirming some of the details. And we are down to the invitation and talking about how we might work the network to get word out about what we're doing.
Okay.
And Pamela was talking about sharing it with Earth Regenerators, the governance jam.
Awesome.
And I'm also wondering about the local climate action group that I'm in.
Mm-hmm.
But that might be a little bit advanced. I'm not quite sure. It's self-named the Oak Bay Climate Force. It was has an interesting naming history, but I'll spare you. It had there are now, I think, 6 core members, and I know for a fact that not everyone would be interested. It would be, but I'm trying to find an entry point for them to see the Lifeboat Academy as as a good ally, and but there are capacity issues, etc. But anyways, let people find out for themselves, and that's one place. The other place, of course, is the Regenerate Greater Victoria. We're at a point where maybe people would be interested in looking at this as a technology that would be transferable, and there could be a reciprocal thing there that is as yet unclear. Yeah, so to begin with. Have just started a new group within the co-op itself that's involved with trying to rethink how it is we're living on this land.
Mm.
And it would be very trippy, actually, if people could plug into that, but that's early days, so it's just something else that's happening.
Well, and I think that the early days part is good. If you look at the pitch, one of the ideas is, and I think this is something that has been getting clearer for me in ways of communicating. What we are trying to do here on Pender, Sedeas, is to basically build a lifeboat with the cameras on in a way that other people can be flies on the wall and see how we're doing it so that they can take away what might be useful for how they want to do it. So, and providing support for, here are the tools that we use. if you want to use any of these tools, we're happy to, let you know how we do it. So I think that idea that, that they could come and just observe, participate and see what it's like. And, with the idea that maybe this is something you do at the co-op, like it's.
Mhm.
I
It's-
wonder, oh, sorry.
No, that's
I
fine.
wonder about the lifeboats, like, it's been a while since the lifeboat has had the, what do you call that circle where it's, oh, how to build a lifeboat? What is a lifeboat to you? And I think you were talking about having one of those sessions.
This is the new iteration, the new incarnation of that lifeboat circle. This is the new form that we are testing out.
Which is this one that we're in right at the moment?
No, the 6 conversations.
Oh, oh, I see.
Yeah, the
Okay,
6 conversations, because before we just did a one circle, and that didn't feel like it was complete enough. And so
right.
that's why the 6 conversations seems to be more, it's the next iteration of how we're imagining the lifeboat circle.
Okay, yeah. I feel slow, but thank you.
I think over to Heather then.
Yeah, well, so I think that when I look at the number of organizations that I'm somehow involved in, I think that when I think about Foodlands, it's made up of so many organizations, like it's a cooperative of organizations.
Mhm.
So it's that I would think that doing a pitch to the members of Foodlands, as well as, of course, Foodlands as a cooperative, it might be a good idea. I'm thinking of when I say my own co-op, I'm a member of so many. Where I live, the farm I live on, we are going through a kind of mission values series of conversations, our farm. And it might be that this would be a good guide for us to look at the 6 conversations, at like independently, but with a link, of course, back to Lifeboat. So yeah, that's what's immediately in my mind is that who do we know that would benefit from this?
Mhm.
Lowbrunners is going through a process, community farm cooperative as well. And would this be a good tool for somebody at Lowbrunner to? And I don't know with with the group at Abundance Farm, they're keen on processes, those groups at Abundance Farm. They're always kind of offering sessions and workshops and intensives and things for them to bond as a group and to clarify, their own purpose. So that's my immediate thought. I'm good for now, I think.
Cool. Over to you, Roland.
I will continue listening to catch up. I think I'm getting the sense of what's going on, and I don't think I have anything at this point. So do I pass it back to you, Ben?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Well, and I think that the next step is pretty clear, which is if we draft an email that has kind of the pitch and the details, and then we can forward it, to you, Heather, and to you, Pamela, and then you can use that to either forward. And what I'm getting is that that's actually internally, this is for us to get to know each other, but it's also this opportunity of people being a fly on the wall and thinking about how the tool might work for them. And I think
Yeah.
we'll make that really clear that that's welcome. You have to participate. You can't just like sit there eating popcorn while everyone else is talking. But
No, for sure.
but that you're not committing to being part of the lifeboat if you don't. That's Um, all right, so continuing on, just to confirm things, April, me and Ronnie have already agreed to facilitate, and I think we have it covered. And anybody else who wants to be part of that is invited. Again, as like a learning opportunity, whatever level of involvement you're looking for, even if it's just to sort of see what it looks like behind the curtain as we're planning it. So that's an open invitation, and that's open to, likewise, that would even be open to, you know, somebody from Lowbrunner says, well, that's great. Can I join you in the planning? Sure. And then follow up, we talked about as we're doing it, you know, part of the desire for us to do it is also to see if we can engage more people. And well, and also engaging more people is in also involves coaching and supporting people who are building a lifeboat. So, you know, like Pam, your local climate group, or your co-op, or any of the farms. So, and I think that that's really just a matter of, at each of the conversations, we kind of have a pitch at the end about join us for a navigation session, join us for coaching or mentoring, and the help desk, and the guilds. So inviting people to get involved in those. Anyhow, so I think we can go once around to see if there are any questions or observations or refinements. And then I think we just need to gather what the tasks are, which I think are pretty straightforward. So any thoughts, reactions, questions, concerns, etc.? Over to you, Pam.
I'm sorry that I can't just really dive in there and, be part of, just learning how it is you organize this, but I have the feeling I would be overextending myself and not be able to reliably show up. So it's just with regrets for that one. And other than that, no, I don't think I have any other questions. It sounds like it's really coming together pretty sweetly. That's Heather.
Yeah, well, my immediate thought was that we have an idea what a lifeboat is, or at least I have an idea. I think it's in line with you. But I've been with the group for a while. I am kind of thinking that one of the first questions that anybody would ask is that, what do you consider a lifeboat? And maybe that's in the kind of maybe there's language around that. So if somebody says, well, that's intriguing, like, what do you consider a lifeboat? Are we a lifeboat? You know, what would be, yeah. So that's my immediate thought. If I've got that, and my other, which is just not related, but maybe if we, for example, put an article in our next newsletter, summer newsletter, about what we're doing, as you know, about the 6 questions, and put it on our website. And then what we do is we put a little blurb on our website, and then we take and just do a very short 100-word thing for the newsletter, so people can get back to it. And we also can link to yours. And that's immediately, I think that goes out to people who would be quite interested in this. You know, we don't have a huge list for the newsletter, maybe 500-600 people or something like that, but I think they are all people who might be intrigued. And over to you, Ben. I guess you're next.
No, Roland.
Roland's next.
Yeah, that all sounds good to me. I'm actually really curious about ways of wording in the email. I kind of like the idea of asking the question in the email as a sort of a actually even as a psychological inoculation, you know, getting people to start thinking about it. Is that a good thing? Is that a bad thing? Do we want them to just to be fresh in the circle and pop the question, or give them an opportunity to consider, well, do I already have a lifeboat, or what is a lifeboat? Or that's a good question. I don't know. Yeah. So I'm going to pass to back to Ben.
We do have our standard definition is a lifeboat is a local place-based resilience network to get through whatever might be coming. And we leave it at that level of generality. Because then I think that combined with the sort of the evocative nature of the idea of a lifeboat is enough to kind of get people primed up. But so I think that we can do a little bit of both of, I mean, a local place-based resilience network is pretty generic. But then asking, so, would you like a lifeboat? And, do you feel like you need a lifeboat? And what would a lifeboat look like to you? I think I like the idea of kind of prompting it in the email. I don't think anyone's going to, write an essay about it and show up all prepared. But I think just kind of planting the seed. But I think that it sounds like we're good to go, and the next steps are really drafting the email that can be shared out both to our list, but then also to potential allies lists. And then that also would be something that, Heather, you could take forward to Foodlands. And then we just have to convene the facilitation group and figure out what questions we're doing when. And and Roland, I think this was before you got here, but based on the poll, the majority is Tuesday night, and we were, even with the poll, we're evenly divided between every week or every 2 weeks. And Heather's suggestion, which I think we all think is a good idea, is we'll start weekly. And then if we find that that's too much, then it's easy to just say, okay, let's switch to every other week. So it's sort of, and it also has that advantage of starting with some momentum, getting some regularity in there, and it's easy enough to switch to every other week if we need to. So I think we're good to go on that. I think we've got our action items set. So then we're almost at time, and we have a few items still remaining. I'm gonna propose that this is one of those weird differences between US English and Canadian English. I was going to say that we table the managing the social media and the website until later, which in my lingo means we put it aside until later. So I'm going to propose that we put aside the managing the social media stuff and the website feedback, because I think that'll take a whole chunk of time to do. We also have this other thing about updates on related groups, and I think that would be a good use of the time that we have left. So can I just get a thumbs up if that's awesome? All right. So Pam, you had some updates you wanted to give. And I do too.
I was at the design school webinar this morning, and I'd highly recommend, when Joe gets ready, when he finally posts the webinar, I'd highly recommend it. It was a really excellent pitch on bioregional learning centers from a different sort of perspective, and it was just a really interesting way of looking at it, and it does tie in with that shared quality that the Lifeboat Academy has as a learning center, a bioregional learning center also. So it might be interesting food for thought. And other than that, the other groups that I'm in, I am looking forward to seeing whether or not there's any movement that comes into the 6 conversations from even one person from any of them, so we'll just leave it with that. Heather?
Yeah, just haven't given it a lot of thought, so maybe I might just pass and just listen for now. Over to Roland.
Yeah, we had, yeah, I don't think I have anything to add, nothing to report. So over to Ben.
The one thing that I have, it's a little bit of a report and it's a little bit of a kind of question for how do we want to handle these kinds of things. So Brad Smith, we met through maybe regeneration. It may be through Earth Regenerators. He also, I think, has connections with deep adaptation. Anyhow, he is working on a project that he's calling the Resilient Communities Project. And there are really strong similarities with what we're doing. He's kind of jumping to well, that's not even, not jumping to, he's working with a number of property owners who are looking to find potential collaborators on their project. So they're looking to recruit people who are interested in doing something like what we call a lifeboat, or actually probably even a regenerative center, and with landowners who currently are open to the idea of making their land one of these projects. And we've met with Brad a couple times. Roland and I just had some conversations with him. Seems like a great guy, very grounded approach, knows his stuff, values alignment, all that kind of stuff. And the only reason why we didn't stay in closer connection was because we were busy getting ready for the design. We were already in the momentum of the design charrette, and we just didn't have the time to participate in his stuff. And he didn't have much time to participate in our stuff. There is an article that he just posted to the Resilience newsletter. That's part of the Post Carbon Institute. And long story short, there's so much similarity between what we're working on. It just makes sense that we should figure out how to stay in touch and look for, mutual support opportunities. But how does that work? So, do we just want to, and I'm thinking from the network guild perspective, do we just, oh, and there's Linda. Do we, oh, that's actually, I'm sorry, Pam, I just saw your comment. Slack would be great, or email to friends or Slack. Hi, Linda. We were just talking about the network side of the guild, and yeah, so anyhow, there's this resilient community project that I have contact with. And at this point, there's no specific, here's what we should do together. Other than, I'll invite them to the 6 conversations through Brad. But, how do we do that? Do we designate somebody who just kind of maintains the relationship and just share? Do we have a standing thing on the agenda where everyone can kind of report from the networks that they're in touch with? That's my question. And like I said, with the resilient communities, there's no specific thing that, here's the chance for us to do something together, except actually they're looking at legal structures. So the one thing I did mention to Brad is if they were looking for legal counsel, that they might hire the same guys that we're working with, and that we could possibly, sort of do cost sharing if they have a similar structure in mind. Anyhow, that's my ramble. So and I guess Linda, do you want to take a minute just to say hi, or okay?
Well, I can say hi. I'm sorry I'm late. I had a medical appointment. I just got back, so I'm sorry I'm late, but I'll just wait and listen and see if I can catch up.
Well, and so yeah, let's go once around with since we've all had a chance to share a little bit about the networks and thoughts, reactions, observations. Pam, over to you.
Hi, Linda. Good to see you.
Good to see you too.
Um, actually, no, I don't think, I think this is a 1 hour meeting.
We tried to, yeah.
So no, it sounds like everything's moving along really well, and it sure is tempting to at least want to be a fly on the wall of the conversation about how the questions evolve. But I think I'll stick to limiting. I've got to draw lines. So and Heather, again, good to meet you. I pass it over.
Yeah, well, I was just thinking is that there's half a dozen issues, and these issues fall down in terms of their importance in different ways. Like there is the land issue of land and the security of land. There is the issue of food, the sovereignty, security, that issue. There is the issue of housing, to live on the land or not on the land. And then there is the kind of networking, educational component to it all. And I think that if we tease that out a bit, we will find people kind of aligned with, they all have something going on with that. In terms of foodlands, there's more emphasis on making sure that the land is accessible and secured in perpetuity, and also that the community group stewarding that land is strong. So, and then you'll have other groups that are like the Academy, they do have an agricultural component, but it may not be as primary, or maybe it is, maybe it's the synergy of all that together. So that's what I'm thinking when you're talking about. I'm looking at what other networks am I knowing about that I'm not including because I'm focusing too narrow. And then maybe that's okay because other people have a little different focus, and then we can reach out. I know for us is that, strictly speaking, the co-housing is something which is community-based, but because it doesn't normally have an agricultural component to it that's very strong or primary, it is not where our energy goes. It's not that we don't see them aligned in lots of ways, but that's not where the focus is. This is a bit of a scattered response, but that's just what I've been sitting here with. You know, who we go to, maybe it's a tiered thing. Who do we really want to be involved to start this off with? And I think it's Roland.
Okay, so I'm walking back and forth. If you can't see me on screen, I think I keep talking and you can still hear me because I'm wearing my little funky ear thing. I'm really curious about the possibility. Is that working? Can you still hear me?
Yep.
Awesome. I'm really curious about what you brought up, Ben, about sort of assigning someone to a contact as part of the outreach group. And it makes me wonder if having some sort of driver statement or protocol or something like that to help people, if we have different people who are assigned to different groups, that we're all sort of on the same page of what that means and what works. Also, sort of like continuing our research project of, posing an action and what actually works, what actually is effective to do that kind of thing. So I would suggest that we work out how we want to work out a system to be able to do that. I have a long time been excited about the possibilities that I suspect are lurking with the Earth regenerators, and trying to figure out like how to do that. And then Brad Smith, like you were saying, there's so much alignment. I remember the meetings that we had with him were really good. The sort of the get to know you, and he did actually come to some of the early planning meetings for the charrette, so he did participate as he could to that. So just using those two things as examples, and as more come up, and then there's also sort of exploring what other connections could be useful. Sort of being proactive either in responding to people who to organizations or people who contact us, as well as reaching out to places like that, the Eco Village in Portugal that you found, that seems to have a lot of alignment, are already doing a lot of the things that we're proposing for the sort of the physical location. Well, actually, the whole thing. There's a lot of alignment there. So those are also things like, what do we need to work out? What do we need to put in place and to agree on to be able to make that happen and make it more effective. So back to you. Is it back to you, Ben, or do I pass to Linda?
Yeah, over to Linda.
Over to Linda.
I'm too new to the conversation, but it sounds exciting. So I'm I'm interested in maybe coming back in the next round. And I don't even know who follows me. So
Back to me then. So well, cool. Yeah, I like what, and I'm making a connection between Heather, what you were saying, and Roland, what you were saying, because it's almost like because we've got our Farm Food and Housing Guild, and we've got our Heartwork Guild, and we've got our finance, because one thing I would add to the list is also finances or economics is also an aspect that everyone has in mind. That they're dealing with the legal, that's Brad Smith and his group. They're looking at how do they set up legal agreements that match the ethics of what they're trying to do. And so I'm thinking, we've got our internal guilds. This is actually an old idea that I had. I remember thinking about the value of place-based work is that every place brings together all of these different aspects, right? So a physical place always has all these different aspects, but not everyone needs to or wants to know about all of those aspects, and you can go deeper. So locally, you have to work across those different interests, but then globally, outside of that place, you want to connect on those specialties, right? You want to get into the nitty gritty of the legal agreement that no one locally is necessarily that interested in. So yeah, I guess I feel like there's a lot of potential here. It kind of lining up the contacts between, somehow lining up the contacts around those aspects that people are working on. Keeping up to date on. Yeah, I'm not sure how that works, but I don't think it needs to be complicated. I think it can be really quite simple as we identify who wants to stay in touch and who's the point person. And then there's just a way of doing, check-ins, something like that. Well, we are past time, and I don't know that we're going to get much further on this. It seems like we just have some ideas popping up. So let's go once around for last things that you want to cover or talk about, last ideas that are emerging, and then we'll do a checkout. So over to you, Pam.
Oh, good. Yeah, thanks. Because there is one last thing, and that's, so Earth Regenerators is going to have one more naming session, at least one more. And what I am thinking in terms of like your expressed interest, Roland, that there be a clear outreach to them. One of the things that I might think might juice that up is if someone from this space, other than myself, was to make an appearance there. And the jams are one place to do that. Or if I'm not, there is going to be a jam, I believe, this Friday. I can make mention in Slack if there is. And it would be like a clear intention of sincere interest and goodwill, or like making that bridge across into that informal space. So I just like to plant that seed if anyone is able to, have the capacity and the time. I will put something in Slack. What section of Slack should I post that kind of information in?
That either announcements or outreach. I feel like that's kind of an announcements
Sure.
level. What time is it? That was my question. What time is the
Oh, it's at 4 o'clock in the afternoon,
4?
both for the jam and for the, and that's Pacific, yeah.
That's why we weren't able to make the naming last time. That was a conflict of schedule conflict.
Yeah.
Because I had intended on going, but it wasn't possible.
Yeah, if I could just say, in terms of just the relational part of that, if there was that intention expressed and just dropped into, because I think you guys are members of Earth Regenerators, so you could, but it's there's no payroll, so you could just drop in and find the governance or the groundwork jam space and drop in something like meant to come, can't make it, which would just be a feel-good sort of expression.
So I guess that's over to you, Heather. Last thoughts for the good of the cause. And you're muted.
I'm just thinking for myself, a takeaway or an action would be to make sure that Amir is in contact with you, Ben, about the networking circle in Foodlands, and then us to report this back to them in the sociocratic way, and just see where we go from there.
And I think it's great that the meeting is coming to a close because my connection is really bad, and you keep freezing, and I keep missing big chunks of things. So I think I'm going to keep it short, and I'm good. Nice to see all of you. So back to Ben.
No, Linda.
Linda, over to Linda.
I don't have anything to add. I came in too late. I appreciate everyone's work. And yeah, it seems like, networking, bringing in other people is a priority. So I'm glad to see all of you working on that. And I hope to be a better participant next time. On to whomever is next.
Well, it's back to me, and I think that wraps it up. So thanks for everyone rolling with the punches today. I know we've had like logistical challenges, and that's why we do things where we post our video and you don't have to be there all the time, and there's a way to catch up, and there's a way to take part even if you can't be there at the same time. So thanks everyone, and let me just, great, cool. And Pam put the Earth Regenerators link in there. And yeah, I think we're good to go. I'll try to get a summary out of the conversation just for people who aren't here. And that's also an opportunity if you have any of those. There's one of my favorite expressions is l'esprit l'escalier. The last thoughts that you have leaving the party. Oh, I should have said that. So if you have any l'esprit d'escalier thoughts, you can also continue to add them as we move forward. So I think that's it for now. And thanks everyone for coming, and we'll see you around. Bye.
Bye.